What's up, everybody? Good evening. How's everybody doing out there? This is Mount Vernon Kid coming to you again with another edition of the Opinion Spot. Hope everybody is well on their end, as usual. I have for this segment of the Opinion Spot, we bring a request, from one of my viewers by the name of Clanders 988, all the way from Norway. So I have an international viewer. I like that. He had several topics that he wanted me to talk about, and I said I'd probably do all of them. But the first one I thought was I'd talk about as well is, as you see the title, Deaths and Returns in two of the big publications, Marvel and DC. For an interesting subject, I think we've all, as comic fans, have talked about this subject for a while, and I think it's time that we talk about it some more. But I put a little bit more emphasis on just the topic. I also put in the factor, yes, there's deaths and there's returns, but which ones are meaningful and which ones are lackluster, that in terms of deaths and returns. Like, you can have a death and it means something, or you can have a death and it's like, am I supposed to feel for that, or is that just your way of just trying to get us to feel for that character? So we're gonna take like a little trip to see how. So we're gonna start off with deaths. There have been many deaths in comic books in these two universes. You know, some from major their flagship characters to their mid-card characters, to some characters that we just didn't even really pay too much attention to, underrated characters. And I think, let's talk from DC. I think the most memorable and most meaning death that I can think of right off the top of my head is old Soups. Superman's death, that hit probably every Superman fan very hard. And why I would call it meaningful is because Superman met his match in this battle, which left him dead. He died. For years, you know, it was like Superman had villains and they would cause him trouble from time to time, but eventually what happens? You know, he always succeeds, but this time he didn't. And that memorable scene of Lois caressing him like that, you know, that meant a lot to a lot of Superman fans. And at the time that I read that, you got to remember, guys, like I said, I thought it was kind of funny because, and I'm not trying to hate on it and hurt any Superman fans' feelings, but at the time I read that, I thought it was funny because in my book, I'm like, yes, you know, finally someone came along and took it to Superman, literally. But over time, you get to see like, wow, okay. And then all these four new Superman comes out, and then finally he returns. But it had meaning to it, you know, it really did. It wasn't like, you know, we're not supposed to feel that, because that death was everywhere. It was in newspapers, you know, it was in the LA Times, New York Times, you name it. It was all over, to the point where people were like, wow, you know, look at that. Someone actually killed Superman. So yeah, Superman's death meant a lot. Meant something. And his return was inevitable, basically. Another death I can say, Barry Allen's death. Barry Allen, his death was very, very, very meaningful, and because he died a hero. Actually, he died saving the multi-universes. It wasn't just, oh, hero dies. He died literally saving the world, saving many worlds. Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 8. Who can forget that? A hero's death. He died a hero, and his return wasn't that bad either. It was, don't get me wrong, I think we all think his nephew Wally West did a pretty decent job as Flash, a great job as the Flash. And when Wally West went away and Bart Allen took over, and then Barry returns. It was great. It was very great to see the Silver Age Flash return, and I think many of us can say without a shadow of a doubt that Barry Allen was or is your favorite Flash out of all of them. Yes, Wally West is good. Nobody's criticizing Wally West, but when you think about the Flash, off the top of your head, people, who's the first one to come to your head first? I'm just saying. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of Marvel. Captain America's death. His quote-unquote death. If you guys can see me, I'm putting up the quote-unquote sign. His death kind of meant something at the end of the Civil War. It really did. That series, someone had to die to really give it a more of a, you know what I'm saying? It really had to, and Steve dying was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I can't believe that. Once again, another character that's been around for so long. Boom. Newspapers. Once again, highly profiled newspapers. Like I said, LA Times, New York Times, you name it. It was all over. And then just the fact of how he was gunned down. First, he protected the guard from being shot by Crossbone, but then Sharon Carter put a couple into him, and it was like, wow. Those deaths like that, but just the way he came back, his return kinda was a lackluster. I was talking to one of my friends, my friend Mark, and he said basically if his return, they were building up his return. If his return has something to do with time travel, that's a cop-out. And what happened? Speaking of time travel, Bruce's death, so-called death, time travel. We were all into, at first, Bruce died, that hurt, that was meaningful. That scene of Superman holding the carcass of who we thought was Bruce, that was meaningful because these guys, to me, it meant so much because here, these guys are very close. These two are very close. They're very, 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 very much like brothers. And to have one of them holding each other's body was like, wow, that meant something. And then we get later on, turn to the next panel. Here's Bruce in a cave, through time, and it's like, oh, come on, But even though life went on, we knew eventually it was inevitable Bruce was going to return. And I have no problem with it, but it's just how. There's so many deaths. Besides just the superheroes, guys, there's also the supporting characters, like one that's coming to my head right now, Gwen Stacy. Her death was so meaningful because of what she meant to a certain character, and then there's some deaths that just were so stupid and just was like, what the hell? As you can see right there, I'm Punisher. His death and his return was stupid, in my opinion. And then if you want to talk about deaths, we can't forget about the X-Men. Death and the X-Men go hand in hand. It's like a match-made marriage, But pretty much almost all the deaths and returns in the X-Men, pretty much the deaths far more than the returns meant more. For example, the death of Colossus, him sacrificing himself with the legacy virus, and then his shocking return, that thanks to Josh Whedon. Wow. Second Coming. 2 characters died pretty much in that. Well, there were many more, but 2 major characters died. Nightcrawler died a hero, protecting, and see, it also bolds into that. It's like how they died. Did they die a hero, or did they die more of they were, for example, they may have been in a group with another people and there was an explosion and they were involved with that. But Nightcrawler died a hero, even though Nightcrawler's died before. Nobody talks about that too much, but that death in the pages of X-Force 27, I believe, that was like, wow. And we all should have known, okay, Second Coming, one of those X-Men, and if you think about it, it was going to be Nightcrawler. Cable's death. Died a hero to save his daughter and the rest of the X-Force or X-Men. He finally let the technovirus take over him. And that was mean because he was a guy that was carrying this virus for years, since he was a baby, and he fought it off for a long time, to finally he succumbed to it, So there are some deaths in comic books in these 2 universes that are meaningful, and there's some that just, I'm not giving you all of them, I'm just giving you some people, but think about it, really think about it. Let's talk about some more deaths. I mean, Blackest Night, a very famous story arc, had many deaths. We all should have known there was going to be a high velocity of deaths. And then the returns. The returns were interesting, but, I think we all stand Maxwell Lord and Zoom and people like that. What was the point? But, what do you guys think? With these 2 big publications, the deaths and the returns, which ones were meaningful to you and which ones were not so meaningful? Which returns were, yeah, he's back, and he's back. So what? Think about that. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on this. And this is Mount Vernon Kid saying peace. Keep it real. Stay tuned. One love. I'm out.